about the second essay coming up. You've done the first essay on profiles. You've done a profile, person, place, or an activity. The second essay says examining arguments, and that's a little different than what you're used to. Here's my guess. When you're in high school, maybe even junior high, somebody assigned an argumentative topic and you had to write what you felt. You were in favor of something or you're opposed to something. This is not that kind of paper. Here's what's going on. I'm going to ask you, because I think this will force you to have some really good critical thinking skills. So I'm going to ask you to find two essays, one that argues on one side of a position, one that argues on the other side. Okay, so you're not arguing, you're finding two arguments on the same issue. So you can go to two different places on the Palomar College database in the library. You don't have to be in the library, you can just do it from home, but you can go to CQ Researcher. That's one, CQ Researcher. The one I like a lot is called Opposing Viewpoints. So here's how you access. You go to Palomar College's library, you go to where it says databases, and that comes up, and you go to the letter O, click on that, and you'll find Opposing Viewpoints right at the top. You click on that, and now you find all these articles, and there's a little blue bar down at the bottom that says see all, whatever, 300 or 400 of them. You click on that, and you've got all these choices. So you click on whatever the choice is. Let's say it's climate change. So you click on climate change, and you find there's a bunch of information about it. You don't want the information, you want what's called viewpoints. So you click on the viewpoints, and now you find arguments, maybe 20, 30, 40 arguments. You're looking for two that oppose each other. One says, this is what we ought to do to fight climate change. Another one says, that's the wrong thing to do to fight climate change. Climate change is a phony deal. Somebody else says, no, it's real. So you want an argument, two people arguing about a topic. Okay, so two different positions, a pro and a con. You get those two, and you read them over, and here's what the paper is going to do. First, you're going to summarize what each person says. You can either do it one paragraph or two separate paragraphs. So just so that I know that you actually read the material. Author A says this, author B says this. Okay, so you just tell me what's in the two. Then I'm going to ask you to find differences. Which one is doing a better job? And I give you a checklist to go by. It's on page 27. Look at page 27 there. See the last bullet point? Here's where you analyze your two arguments. The support, the tone, the recognition of the other side, style, and on and on and on. Look at your two arguments and see which one is doing a better job in organization. Which one is doing a better job when it comes to support. Which one do you trust the author more? So that's going to be where you're going to analyze the two, and you're going to reach a conclusion that one did a better job than the other. Maybe they both did a good job. That could be. So does that make sense? So here's the first area that you're going to do as a practice. It starts on page 28. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Does that name sound familiar? I hope it does if you've paid any attention to politics over the last 10, 20 years. So she wrote an essay that says media violence may cause youth violence. In other words, she thinks there's a connection between television and movies and video games, the kind of violence that is in them, that can affect students and make them more violent. Young people. Opposite her, if you flip over a few pages, page 32, Christopher Ferguson. Look him up, see who he is. It's time to end the debate about video games and violence. You know why he wants to end the debate? He says there's no connection whatsoever between the violence that you watch on television and the violence that people do in real life. Okay, so do you see we have two opposite views there? So I'd like you to read the two. There's some questions at the end of the book that I'd like you to answer to begin thinking about which one do you think did a better job. So there's another set of essays, because I want you to practice first. The one essay is on page 35. It's by Ricky Gervais, who's a British actor and a television producer, and he's hosted the Oscars. It says, Why I Do Not Believe in a God. So he's an atheist. Then, page 38, Marilyn Adamson, writes the counter to that. She says, does God exist? And her answer is yes. And so I think this is a fascinating issue, because how you answer that question is going to make a big difference in the way you live your life. So anyway, take a look at those two. And again, read them, be able to summarize what they say, and then come up with a back and forth about who's doing a better job in things like structure and vocabulary and sentence structure and style and organization and support and things like that. So does that make sense for the second essay you're going to do? You can let me know if you have a question about that. Okay, third thing, and then we'll end here. If you turn to page 105, this is something I want you to do very early in the semester. It's down near the bottom of the page on 105. It says summary, paraphrase, and quotations. You're going to have to pull off all three skills as you write your research paper. So what are we talking about there? Well, there's a difference between summarizing and paraphrasing. Summarizing is to take a long piece that you just read and squash it down into just a few sentences that are the highlights. So that's summarizing. Paraphrasing says, find a paragraph that has just lots of good information. You want to use it all in your paper, then you need to rewrite it so it's your writing and not just that person's style, because that's plagiarism. So you're taking almost a sentence by sentence redoing of what that author said so it makes sense to you and it will make sense to your readers. And of course, quotations is actual quotation marks and pulling out a sentence or a part of a sentence and putting that into your paper. So it's a skill. And you need to develop those skills, all three of those, to write your research paper. So I've got an exercise for you to do there on paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing. And it's involving a short essay called The Afflictions of Affluence. So take a look. Make sure you know what affluence is. Notice this guy is saying there are some afflictions with affluence. So I hope you find that interesting. So there you go. There's the next part of our class. It's keeping going with the research, it's getting started on your second essay, and it's thinking about how to paraphrase and summarize and quote.